Listen to this podcast now on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Why is the middle class shrinking? Why are people facing an affordability crisis while marginalized individuals called informals grow in numbers? Join me as I travel the world, speaking with people living in invisibility, the leaders working to solve it, and uncovering the hard truths shaping our economy and daily reality.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me. Taxi. Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Good morning. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
Rev, I don't know if you've heard anything, but the Knicks are in the playoffs. I don't know if you got the news out there yet.
Have I heard? Yeah, right.
So, obviously, we got to discuss all the ramifications of that. But today we're privileged to have David Checketts, who was the president of the Knicks from 1990 to 1994, then became president of Madison Square Garden, 1994 to 2001. So he has a lot of information he's going to share with us. From Boston, I can tell you this. I told Mr. Checketts I've hired 2 bodyguards. I walk with security wherever I go in this city now. I've hidden all my Boston memorabilia. You know, I've tried to pick up a New York accent. So I want to keep saying. Anyway, it is a great moment. Dave Checketts, thanks so much for being with the Rev and the Rabbi.
Listen, this is the honor of my life to be on this particular program with the two of you. I admire you both so much, and I don't even wince at all the ribbing I get from Rabbi Potasnik.
And well deserved. Well deserved. That's what I can tell you. Look, I'm happy for you. I told you, Dave, the other day, once every 53 years. I mean, come on. I support you in this endeavor.
Stop.
Anyway, what does it mean?
The Rangers? Now, remember, the Rangers had gone 54 years when they won it in 1994. So maybe this is the charm. You know?
What does it mean if you're president of Madison Square Garden? What are those responsibilities?
Well, it's president and CEO of Madison Square Garden means that you are over. In those days, it was all one company. It was all together. So I had the Knicks, the Rangers. We launched the women's team, the Liberty, in 1996. So I was over them. Then MSG Network, the regional television sports network, and then the arena itself. And then, you know, all of the other theaters that we were trying to buy in those days. In 1997, we bought Radio City Music Hall. We renovated it and brought it right back to 1932 with improved sound and lights and made it beautiful again. And that's part of the MSG family now too. Yeah.
Wow. No, that's beautiful. How do you even come into that? I mean, you started out in 1990 as president and then became CEO. So president over the Knicks, right? So that's one thing. But when you became CEO of MSG, now that brings in the hockey teams, right? What else does it bring under your jurisdiction?
The women's team, the women's basketball team, the Liberty.
That's right.
Which, they later sold to the group in Brooklyn. They now play in the Brooklyn arena. But you know, I had graduated from business school. I'd gone to work for a company in Boston. I did live in Boston. I was a Boston sports fan.
Now you're talking.
I know it's hard to believe because I'm a nice guy, but I was a Boston sports fan.
I knew I loved you. Yeah.
And then from there, I went to, by the strange set of circumstances, I went to be president and general manager of the Utah Jazz. I was 27 years old when that happened. And I had never run a lemonade stand at that point. So that was a step up for me. But the Jazz were really in bad shape, in bankruptcy. This was in 1983. But I just loved it. I loved rebuilding that team. We drafted Karl Malone. We drafted John Stockton. We built a new arena. We put that club on good good ground. And then David Stern, the commissioner of the NBA and dear friend and mentor, who's sadly no longer with us, David asked me to come back and run a division of the NBA called NBA International in 1990. So I moved my family. I had 5 kids at that time. We have 6 total, but we moved our family from Salt Lake City, where I grew up, to New York, and I took over NBA International. And it was only 6 months or so when Dick Evans, who was president and CEO of Madison Square Garden, called and said, "You need to come and help us sort out the Knicks, make the Knicks great again." And I couldn't resist, because that was my team from when I was a boy. I always loved the Knicks, even though my whole neighborhood were Laker fans in Utah. I always loved Red Holzman, the New York Knicks, Clyde Frazier, Bill Bradley, Dave DeBusschere, the Willis Reed, Dick Barnett, all of them. I loved that team. And so when I was offered the job to come and try to sort out how we were going to use Patrick Ewing and make the Knicks great in 1990, I jumped at that.
By the way, Dave, can you share a story you told me a while ago that the Knicks would get booed even when they called the timeout?
Right.
And you initiated something that was, I thought, ingenious.
Oh, boy, Joe, you get me in trouble here for all the purist Knicks fans who hated that. So only in the Garden, they had no other entertainment other than basketball. And they actually stood on that as almost self-righteously, as we are here for basketball. Don't bother us with all of the other acts and music and everything else. Just don't do it. But what happened that first year that I came in, I realized that the Knicks had the worst home record in all of the NBA. By far the worst home record. And here they had Patrick Ewing and a fairly talented team. But if you can't win at home, you have no chance. So I went to a game and I watched these players, and there's nothing worse than really getting loudly booed by your home fans. And I had joined in March, so the season was coming to an end, and the team was struggling to finish in the 8th spot. The team would finish in the 8th spot and play the Bulls in the first round. And actually, the first playoff game, the Knicks lost by 41 points in Chicago, which was a playoff record. But when they came home for Game 3, they were so loudly booed. First of all, there was only 6,000 people in the building, and they were so loudly booed that I said, I got to do something about this. I mean, at home, you don't want it. You don't want that, because I watched the look on players' faces. They didn't want to be there. They didn't want to be there on a team that was so bad that they were getting booed by their home fans. So I introduced the Knicks City Dancers, which still are part of the whole act, so that there's a timeout. The team's having a rough time. They're down 10, they're down 12 in the first quarter. Coach calls a timeout, and the crowd, instead of booing, onto the floor comes this high-energy group of women dancers with high-impact music, and no one could hear anybody boo.
Brilliant.
That's why I did that.
Wow.
Well, we're going to have to take a break, and we'll come back with more of the Reverend Rabbi and our incredible guest, Mr. Checketts, and the Knicks and MSG. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
And we are speaking with Dave Checketts, President and CEO of Madison Square Garden, 1994 to 2001. President of the Knicks, 1990 to 1994, and obviously talking about New York Knicks fever and the history of the organization. Rev?
Yeah, no, I'm just fascinated. Of course, the doing everything you can to deal with the booing that went on. But you have stories that go back with individual players. Share some of those stories
Yes.
with us.
Well, when I first arrived, Patrick Ewing was in his, was just finishing the 6th year of his 10-year historic contract that he signed with the team. And he was drafted in 1985, the first player picked in the draft, this 7'2" massive human from Georgetown. And of course, for anywhere that Patrick went, you would expect that team would compete for a championship. But the Knicks, over 6 years, really had never even advanced in the NBA playoffs. The furthest they'd gotten in Patrick's 6 years was to the semifinals of the Eastern Conference. And no matter who they put around him, they couldn't settle on a coach. So Patrick, in his 6 seasons, had 6 different coaches and 4 different general managers. And when Dick Evans asked me to come, I said, well, we're going to stop right there. We are not going to let that happen, because the lack of continuity, of knowing who you play for, of knowing who you play with, that just creates all kinds of a lack of performance and people to blame and people to point fingers. And if players know that their coach is going to get fired anyway, they have long-term contracts, so they don't think anything of just saying, we're not going to listen to him. And so Patrick was in that state. And after 6 years, his agent had negotiated a clause that if Patrick was not in one of the 4 highest paid players in the NBA, he could escape and become an unrestricted free agent. And that would have just killed the franchise. So that's when I was joining. He was coming up on this clause. So I immediately started meeting with him as often as I could, and he would bring his lovely wife in. Rita, she was just great, a lawyer, smart, really calm, really a great part of those talks. And I was just saying to Patrick, look, I've just taken over and been on the job only a few weeks, but Patrick, how do we solve this and keep you here? And he said, look, I think there's no question I'm not going to be one of the 4 highest paid players. There's 4 players ahead of me, clearly. And as a free agent, I'm going to look around because I haven't been able to win here. And the only thing I want to do is actually win. And I said, I understand that, but believe me, things are going to change. We're going to have a world-class coach. We're going to have a world-class staff. We're going to put the right people in places, and they will stay there. You're not going to have all of this change that has given you the feeling of instability. And we had all these meetings, and we just became better and better friends. But the reality was, his agent believed that he was not one of the 4 highest paid players. And I absolutely was sure, because we tested it with all of our lawyers. The one thing I had at the Garden was plenty of lawyers, 17 of them. And so we had tested it with all the legal crew. I was quite sure that he was number 4 in the league and that he would not qualify to become a free agent, even though we would go to arbitration for that. But then I found out that there was a movement underway to take Chris Mullin, New York's own Chris Mullin from St. John's, who was playing for Golden State. Golden State was going to amend his contract toward the end of that season and load more money into his contract, meaning that he would then pass Patrick Ewing, springing Patrick Ewing free to become a free agent, and he would sign with Golden State. and they had already tampered with him. Golden State had already tampered with him and offered him this very expensive contract. I found out about that, and I went after the owners of Golden State. I called them and I said, I know all about your plot. I know if you change Chris Mullin's salary to spring Patrick free, the one thing I have at Madison Square Garden is plenty of lawyers. I'm just telling you, I'm coming after you in interference into a contractual relationship. You're not going to get him. You'll be suing us. I'll be suing you for years and years. So you better think before you do that.
Wow.
And here's the best part of the story. They still tried to do it, but Chris Mullin found out that they were trying to change his contract just for the purpose of springing Patrick out. And to his credit, I will always love Chris Mullin. He said, I'm not doing that to my hometown of New York.
Wow.
Not doing that.
So, Dave, I want to ask you, you talked about sitting down with Patrick. You're dealing with a lot of egos, people who are well-paid, treated royally, glorified by the fans. How do you deal with that?
Well, yeah, look, to be that talented and that accomplished to get into the NBA and be one of the best players in the world, there are some real egos, not just with players, but with coaches and general managers. And, everybody has an ego of some kind, but the players, some of them are really very, very difficult. I was lucky in Utah that I had John Stockton and Karl Malone because they were both from small towns. They both were very humble. They both were happy to play in Salt Lake for their whole careers, 20 years. And when I came to New York, I found Patrick to be amazingly humble and kind in our meetings. And, he didn't like the fact that we won the arbitration and that kept him restricted to that 10-year massive contract. But I still added on to his contract a couple of very big compensation years because I just felt like he was so valuable to us. And we became the closest of friends. And still, I can count on this. Every Father's Day, first thing in the morning, I'm getting a note from Patrick Ewing that says Happy Father's Day. He will send me a personal note every year because over that time we just grew so close. So I think sometimes a big ego, Joe, is just a cover for the insecurity of I'm not sure I deserve all of this. Right. And the worst kind of egos are those that are the most afraid. But I feel like with the Knicks, Charles Oakley, Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston, Charlie Ward, these were Anthony Mason. These were great, great players. And for the most part, they could leave their ego at the door. And in that locker room, they were part of a great team.
Wow. We didn't even get a chance to talk about this current season that the Knicks are in and the excitement here. And do you have time to hang around for another segment?
Of course, sure.
And by the way, Rev, the other thing I want to touch with Dave is his incredible love for his faith. He's a person of deep faith, and that's something that really should be stressed as well.
Excellent. Stay tuned. We're going to be back with more of The Rev and the Rabbi right here on Red Apple Radio Networks.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
We're talking with Dave Checketts, President and CEO of Madison Square Garden, 1994-2001, President of the Knicks, 1990 to 1994. And, it's Knicksomania in New York, Dave, as you well know, and I'm sure in other places as well. It's an incredible atmosphere, and it's very healthy for the city.
Yes.
Right? There's something that brings people, and we're so divided in so many ways, but it takes this kind of event to bring people closer together and recognize, well, we're on the same team. Talk about that, Dave.
Well, the Knicks fans are the greatest fans, and actually Knicks fans are different than any other New York team because I feel like...
Boy, is that true. Is that true. Go ahead.
No, I feel like basketball is the sport of choice in many ways for the city. I do think, look, when the Rangers won the Cup in '94, that was just an amazing time. But basketball really is the heartbeat of the city, and all those playgrounds and all those playground legends, and the game is a city game. It really, really is. And so it is fun to see them celebrating. And that actually is my only regret. I feel like I had a great almost 11 years at the Garden with the Knicks and then as CEO. But my one regret is we couldn't quite get there. In '94, we were a better team, I thought, than the Houston Rockets. And it went to 7 games. And it was one shot one way or the other, all the way to 7 games, and we ended up losing at the end. And it was devastating to us because to get that close to grabbing that trophy and not be able to get it was, well, that was devastating. But it's the city game, and these are great fans, and I hope they can just enjoy this. And I really, really hope the Knicks can deliver.
Do you think the momentum is different this time around? I'm excited the fact that, we're talking about the beginning games on the road, because that's always a challenge.
Yeah.
Can the Knicks win on the road? And they've been done up. Yeah. Do you think the momentum is different this time?
Yes, because there's actually a belief that, the Knicks are on some kind of tear. They've won 12 or 13 in a row in the playoffs. It's never happened before. And so people not only believe, but they believe in the Knicks, but they believe they can actually reach out and grab the cup now, as Joe says affectionately, for the first time in 53 years.
Affectionately, yeah.
Dave, I've been with you, New York, Salt Lake City. I really have a loving friendship with you, and I admire your love for your faith. You're a proud member of the Church of Latter-day Saints. Talk about that. Talk about that journey.
Well, I grew up just outside Salt Lake City, Utah, in a little town called Bountiful, Utah. My folks met after World War II. My dad was a World War II Marine. He was in Guadalcanal. He was in Iwo Jima. He was in Okinawa. He had a really tough battle at that point in his life. He came home and met my mom. He had seen my mom in a picture while he was on Okinawa with another guy who was married to a woman, and he pulled out his wallet to show him, my dad, a picture of his wife, and standing next to his wife was this lovely girl, and my dad said, "Who's that?" And this soldier said, "Oh, that's her sister, but don't get any ideas of, you're nothing good enough for her. She's like a peach." And finally, my dad started writing. They married a year after he came home in 1946. They had 5 kids, and our lives revolved around our small community, our family, and our church. And so the Church of the Latter-day Saints, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, was our church, and I was raised in it, and I had such wonderful tutors and mentors and examples. I served as a missionary for the church. When I was 19 years old, I was called to serve in the worst parts of East Los Angeles. We had to be in our apartment by 6 p.m. because the gang violence was so bad. And meanwhile, I was walking around in a white shirt and tie, this gangly 19-year-old, teaching people about the Bible the advent of Jesus Christ and his ministry and his gift to us, his atoning sacrifice, his resurrection, and I just gained such a strong witness that I wanted to become a disciple of his, and I've been all these years. I'm now 70, and I'm happy to say I have remained devoted, as has my family, to the church, so much so that Deb, my wife, and I were called to go to London and live for 3 years, 2018 to 2021, and supervise the efforts of 700 missionaries in the greater London area who were from 54 different countries. And it was one of the great experiences of our lives. So I couldn't be more grateful for our faith.
So tell us, what's the retention power? Because when you think about how do we measure the strength of a church and its influence, I like to look at its retention of people, because sometimes people grow up in a faith and then venture off in other directions. But there's a retaining power. What is it that you experience personally?
I really think it's an emphasis on the family. The family is the unit that God ordained for children to be raised in, and families are all different. We know that some are single parent families and other kinds of families that come together, but being with loved ones and being with loved ones who have similar faith and strengthening each other is really, it has a permanence, a feeling to it. And then, of course, we build temples all over the world, taking away from Rabbi Potasnik and his great traditions of the Jewish faith. We build temples, and in those temples, marriages are performed not just for time and eternity, or not just for time, but for time and eternity. So there's a belief in a permanence of the family and being with those that you love long after this life is over.
Yeah. Dave, one of the things that I will always treasure, we at the New York Board of Rabbis, we honored you. There are others, but we honored you and Deb, and you demonstrate that you can be a person of faith, you can be a person committed to your profession, and you can succeed in both. You can treasure both. You don't have to hide your identity. And also the relationship you have with people of different faith communities. As a Jew, I admire the relationship that we share. So there's much to be proud of.
No, I think to be on with both of you is really special for me because I admire you both so much, Reverend and the Rabbi. It's a great forum for the similarities and not the differences between us, and there's many more similarities, than there are differences. And I just admire you both for all the great work that you do. It's amazing. I'm a big admirer of both of you.
Well, it's an honor.
We appreciate those kind words, and you have to be intentional. I love what you said about the family. I am now joined the ranks of chiefs. Of course, Rabbi Potasnik was chief before I was. He's chief chaplain for FDNY, and now I'm chief chaplain for NYPD. But
so I have seniority.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got it. But we were talking about, I was talking to some police officers, existing chiefs actually, and I said, policing has to kick in when the moral systems fail. And the legs of the moral system in our society begins with the family, then educational system, and our houses of worship. Those are the three legs. And when those are failing, that's when policing has to kick up, because the values, the development of conscience, the formation of principles, when they're not taking place in those institutions, beginning with the family, all of a sudden, police activity has to increase to respond to that shortage. How do you respond to that?
Well, I absolutely believe that has to happen. I had an older brother who sadly is not with us anymore, but he spent his career as a police officer and then an undercover drug enforcement agency or an agent for the U.S. government. And his whole existence was to make the world a better place, especially to get harmful drugs off the streets and to save people who become addicted and who need help. And so, yes, that's the way that it is. But it's in the home, it's in the family, it's with parents who care. The children learn values from a young age. My mother sat on our beds at night. There were three. I had two brothers, and she was in there every night reading to us from the Bible or the Book of Mormon. And I remember there were times where all of a sudden she stopped, and I'd look over and she was sound asleep. But I loved her with such affection. She was such a powerful part of my life, and right was right and wrong was wrong. And I was taught great principles and lots of integrity from my father, who I worked with as a teenager and preteen as in his business. And I loved them. I wanted to be like them. I wanted to make them proud. And I was really very happy that my mother and father, in 1946, May 8th, here Dad was in his Marine uniform, home from the war, and they went to the Salt Lake Temple in Salt Lake City, this beautiful, iconic temple, and that's where their marriage was performed. And in my mind, that meant our family would be together forever.
Well, Dave Checketts, I remember somebody said to me, I learned all my values at the kitchen table, sitting around with the family, and you echo that. Dave, it's been an honor. Yeah. Reb, I don't know how to break the news to you, but I want to surprise you. Dave has given us 2 places at the playoffs. Unfortunately, they're at the watch parties outside of the Garden. But hey, listen, it gets you a little bit closer.
Which our congressman approved the watch party. By the way, that was big news this past week.
Yeah.
All right.
People have called me, Rabbi, to say, "Can you get us tickets?"
No, I'm shocked. Really?
Yeah.
I have less influence than anybody you can name.
Well, you have a lot of influence in many areas that we really admire. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for who you are, and we're blessed to know you.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And ditto.
God
thank you
bless
for who you are. Yeah, thank you for being on the program, and thank you for this segment of The Rev and the Rabbi with an incredible guest. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned.
On the biggest stage in the world, FanDuel is changing the game because sometimes your player gets subbed off and your bet goes with them. Not anymore. With FanDuel Super Sub, if your player's subbed out, your bet stays in. That's right. If your player leaves the match, your bet continues on with the substitute. So you're still in it until the final whistle. Visit FanDuel.com. Get started now. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel.
21 plus select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 18 plus DCKYWY. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-MY-RESET. 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat. Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org. Call 800-327-5050. Massachusetts. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 877-770-7867. Louisiana.
Visit FanDuel.com. Get started now. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel.